Right, well, good evening, and this is Restart Sailing show number 42, amazingly. I'm Simon Lovesley, founder of Restart Sailing, joined by John Emmett. But yeah, it seems to be quite relevant. We're back here on after a month off.
Yeah, it's amazing to think we're getting ever closer to 50 shows and going to try and fill today's show with positive news. And we're going to have three sections. The first is how to look after yourself this winter, because obviously prevention is better than cure. Our class this show is the RS200 class, which had over 100 boats at their nationals, I believe. We'll ask Tommy about that later, as well as having, really incredibly high caliber sailors, including Olympians, jumping into it whenever they get the chance. And finally, the coaching topic is going to be about mental fatigue. We often think about physical fatigue, but mental fatigue is very important, and that's both in relation to the pandemic and to our sailing. The key thing is there's a very obvious spike in the number of cases. I'm never sure whether it's Omicron or Omicron. My Greek alphabet is not that great, but it's very transmissible, less severe virus, and we're probably looking at 80% plus now. And the good news, because it's so transmissible, it's very unlikely it's going to be superseded in the near future by another variant. You'll see in the news there was talk about a French variant. I think they haven't even given it a name yet because it's not a virus of concern that they discovered in Morocco. So if we go to the next slide, we can see that there's a slight uptick in the number of deaths. And I say every show, every death is, of course, a great tragedy to all the loved ones. We're not going to expect to have those big waves of deaths like we've had in the previous waves. But you can't underestimate the good work people in the NHS do, and it's the vaccine program, all the rest of it, which has enabled us to go sailing. So I thought it's now January, new year, new resolutions, all that sort of thing, and it's really important to think what we can do to protect ourselves over the winter, because protecting ourselves from infection is not only looking after us, although probably for some people it's the primary motivation. You can't spread something to someone else if you don't catch it. And even if we're just talking about coughs, colds, normal flu, nobody wants it. One of the key things which happens in winter, we don't get out in the sunlight. And by that I mean even if we go out in the sunlight, in the northern hemisphere it's not really strong enough. So a vitamin D supplementation, when I say that it's vitamin D3, it's a really good idea. It is just excreted in your pee. It's incredibly hard to take too much, and it's not only your body's ability, sort of antibody ability to deal with viruses, it's also will improve your vaccine response if you haven't actually had it yet. So yeah, your top tip for this show is vitamin D3, and you can also take it with K2 at the same time. Because that actually protects your body from sort of calcification and things which could happen with a very high dose of vitamin D. And this is just such an easy thing to do, take first thing in the morning with your orange juice and get through the winter in better shape. And I won't go into it too much, but it's not only, protecting yourself from a virus, it's something which will really improve your general health. And it's amazing how much vitamin D deficiency in the world there is. And then just the other stuff that you would normally have for viruses, which is vitamin C, it's good to get from a fruit source, and zinc. Those are the sort of things you can think about over the dark winter months, just to spend more hours on the water and less hours in bed, whether it's from cold or flu or COVID. But the thing to say now, that NHS website probably needs to be updated a little bit, because the latest variant, the symptoms are so similar to the cold for a lot of people. Maybe half the people who've got a cold will have COVID, and half the people who think they've got COVID have just got a cold. So that's why the lateral flow tests are great, and I think a good part of opening up larger events, because though of course they're not as accurate as the PCR, if you're likely to be infectious, the level of viral load that you have to be infectious is similar to the level that's picked up by the lateral flow. So please do get tested, protect all the people around you, and hopefully 2022 is going to be a much better year. And I think with that we can go onwards to talking about sailing, which is what we're really here for.
So we're getting some winter sailing in, and we had the Burfield Breezer, a new event, last year, but only a week or so ago.
It wasn't a very breezy breezer, but we're letting them off. Nobody has control over that. They did a fantastic job. Very welcoming club, and just shows that things can and do happen. I haven't put the slide in, but of course, you got that little interview at the end of the event, once again with the champions. So please do check that out.
Good to say yes, and quite a lot to learn. But I think the good thing is that the Burfield Breezer happened, and I think Nigel Rolfe there, the Commodore's shown, and we've had him on the show before, that possible to run these events really lean and mean, isn't it, and get people out there. So that's the good news. The slightly sad news is that we've had some cancellations. So the Yorkshire Dales Brass Monkey, the Bloody Mary and the Grafton Grand Prix have cancelled due to sort of COVID reasons. Partly the scale of the event. I think that's some of the concerns. That something like the Bloody Mary has sort of 500-600 people on site, which is a lot of people gathering.
Yeah, but I think that the outdoor element is keen, and if anybody's wondering whether it's okay to be running outdoor events in the winter, I'll just put my own very personal opinion, but I personally am very happy to get changed outside my car if it means I can still go racing. And I think quite a few people feel the same, especially when I grew up, basically didn't really have a clubhouse at my first club. It was very normal to be changing outside. And we didn't have dry robes or very nice high quality wetsuits back then.
Clubhouses are a bit of a modern invention, aren't they? And I think the important thing is getting people out there, and certainly having attended these events, Datchet and Draycott, people just welcome the chance to go sailing and also to see other people. I think that mental health thing can't be underestimated in terms.
But that's actually part of the coaching topic today, when we just have a quick look at fatigue, because I think that's a very universal thing. But yeah, good event.
Yeah. So coming up, we have the King George Gallop, and I'm talking to King George tomorrow, and then the Rutland the Tiger Trophy, and those clubs in Oxford are keen to make something happening. Maybe that we need to make some adaptations in light of the latest COVID situation, but really the evidence is that we can make these events work, so that's happening. And then on Sunday is a bit of a catch up that Andy Rice and I are organising the series. We'll be having a bit of an update on Facebook in terms of where we are. We're at the sort of the halfway mark, 3 events in, 3 to go, and just really good to catch up, see where we are, and who's winning on the different rankings. So hopefully people can join us for that. All right, so moving forward. I think
first of all, very welcome, Tommy, and thanks for the great video. You've laid down the gauntlet for some of the other classes which are going to be joining us in the near future. Before we started the show, you told us a little bit about that, so perhaps you can tell us that story.
Yeah, hi guys, thanks for having me on. That video was taken at Hayling Island on basically the first day we were allowed to go sailing after the very first lockdown. So the restart of sailing, to be honest. We were allowed to go 2-person sailing if you were sort of in the same household, and luckily I sailed with my sister. So the first opportunity we got, nice and sunny day, we went out sailing. So
that's and a quick shout out to the person who took it.
Shout out to Nick Robbins, who didn't have anyone he could sail with, so was our cameraman for the day. Great showing shots.
Brilliant. So this is your golden opportunity to promote the RS200 class. I mean, it's a class which has gone from strength to strength. It's been used for very good reason for the endeavour, and it's something that seems to attract an awful lot. I'm always careful to choose my words here, but absolutely world-class sailors jumping in and out of.
Yeah, it's sort of amazing the sort of caliber of people that jump in, just sort of either keep them at the club as just a boat that when they've got a minute away from their Olympic campaigns or whatever they're doing, they can jump in and do club racing in it, or and also the nationals is just full of sort of some incredible names from a multitude of classes come in and have a go. So that's sort of one of the really main draws to the 200 for me is the quality of the racing, whether it's at the local club or at the nationals. It's sort of a great boat to jump in sort of for any level of sailing, to be honest.
And it'd be really good to talk about you. You've got a very impressive CV. What was your sort of route into sailing? The classes you came through, and then sort of once again reiterate how come you ended up stuck with the RS200 at the end after your previous transitions?
Yeah, so when I first started sailing, sort of terrors and oppies, I absolutely hated it. It couldn't get me on the water. I was hiding in the dunes at the sailing club, trying to.
For anyone who doesn't know that, I assume that's Hisk you're talking about when you say.
Yeah, dunes. Sorry, the sand dunes. And eventually, my mum said, the way I'm going to get you into sailing is by sailing with me. So I started crewing for my mum in a fever. And for anyone who doesn't know my mum, she's a very accomplished sailor. So we started winning, and then suddenly I started liking sailing again.
Are you telling us it's more fun when you're winning?
Yeah, well, it might be for me. It was at the start anyway. And then started doing a lot of fevering, started helming fevers, was lucky enough to be coached by Dave Hyvey for 2 years in fevers, and who was a very accomplished 200 sailor. So that certainly helped the transition into a 200.
In fairness to David, a very accomplished sailor in lots of classes.
Yeah. But he basically taught us how to sail a fever through his experience in a 200. So that was pretty helpful. I then moved into a 29er and I started crewing. And that was probably the most sort of serious sailing I did, was the 29er. Took it very seriously with a friend of mine, Crispin. And yeah, we had some good results in the end, and sort of won a few medals at international events.
You're really okay to give us the specifics. I think it says an awful lot for the RS200, the caliber of the people who come and do it.
Well, so just over 5 years ago, we won the Youth Worlds in the 29. So
that's what I was trying to get out of you.
And then we finished the 29er, and I wanted to go to university, do some team racing. But the best boat to sort of keep at the club and sort of move out of that youth level was to buy a 200. Obviously, a little bit of parent input. Very grateful to Dad for getting us our first boat. But then it sort of lined us up to sail with my sister. So in all of those footage, you can see me sailing with Charlie, who also is a very accomplished sailor and a great, one of the best sort of 200 crews out there.
And it worked very well for the lockdown, obviously.
Take it relatively seriously, as seriously as we can. But the sort of beauty of 200 sailing is it's just fun to go racing. So you don't have to do too much training. You just want to go race and have fun.
And can you tell us a bit about your lockdown? Because obviously that worked out very well for you in terms of the household rules and.
Yeah, so luckily the 200 class is sailed by loads of people that are in couples, father, daughter, mother, son, or you name it. So that actually there's quite a lot of people sailing in households, just like Charlie and I. So we could get out quite a bit. So whenever there was the opportunity to go out in bubbles, we would just turn up at the club, already changed, hoist the sails and go racing, just find some marks in the harbour. So we were really fortunate at Hayling to be getting 4 or 5 boats out for some very sort of informal racing during sort of the times when lockdown sort of allowed it. That was really lucky. And then as things sort of opened up, we started doing more events and could start doing the national circuit again.
Can you just tell us a little bit about the national circuit last year, what events the class managed to do and what the hopes are for this year?
So I can't remember. I don't think many were cancelled last year. I think we got away quite well. And we had the I think all the national tour happened, and then obviously we had a great nationals at X, which was obviously 2021, and it was the first national since 2019, because the 2021 was cancelled. That was supposed to be up in can't remember where that was going to be. But yeah, so X was our big nationals last year, where we saw over 100 boats.
That's what I thought, and that's really impressive to break the 100.
So that was really nice. Great opportunity to sort of see everyone after what felt like a year off, and it felt like a little bit of normality again, with proper socials and proper racing. And it was just sort of a perfect week to sort of get back in the 200, and hopefully, I'm sure this year will be much the same. We've got a full national calendar and regional calendar, and then obviously the nationals are at Hayling Island on the 21st to the 25th of August, I think.
You better get that right, or you're gonna get lynched.
That is right. Yeah. No.
Is that your key event? Home advantage and all that?
Yeah, for Charlie and I, that will hopefully be our key event. We were fourth at the nationals last year, so it'll be nice to start making the top three. Yeah, we'll start. But fortunately, with the nationals at HISC, everyone comes out of the woodwork for a big nationals at Hayling, so the competition should hopefully be.
It will mean even more to get on the podium then.
Exactly, yeah. So hopefully we'll get lots of opportunities to get out in Hayling Bay and get some practice in.
Brilliant. Well, thanks so much for your time. Please do hang around. We're just going to have a little coaching segment to finish, because I got told off in the beginning that all we were doing was talking about COVID and things being cancelled. So we'll try and end on a positive note. Because I always think in the deepest, darkest winter, in some ways, that's a good opportunity to get ahead of your rivals when some people are perhaps missing some time on the water. So we're going to say bye for now, but you're still there if you have something to say, because you were slightly covering my graph. And it's interesting, I did this.
Yeah.
It's funny. I can see boats in the background as well. Maybe that's that's in my subconscious. But this graph of fatigue, I could actually very, very easily call it physical fatigue, because we see this a lot when people end up overtraining, whether it's because the workload they've done is too much, or they haven't had enough sleep, or they haven't had adequate nutrition, because all three of those things are important. So people get to the end of day 5 and they're pretty much hitting the wall, and that's problematic when you have 6-day regattas, which we do for an awful lot of big events, especially in the Olympic classes, even if the final race is only a short one. But the mental fatigue, it's a really important thing. So I've done this as a championship, about having a little wind down and a little debrief and a little refocus for the next day. But this could easily be extrapolated to a lot of things, and it could be over an entire year if you're always high under pressure and you never have that little chance for a small relax, or indeed you don't have a big enough relax. It can really affect your mental health. I mean, that's why it's natural for us to have holidays and get away and spend time with friends and family. And I hope lots of people have had a really good Christmas, but I do appreciate a few Christmases would have been cancelled because it wasn't always possible for everyone to meet up. So having that mental break is really, really important, not just in a sailing constant, to have the holiday, to see your loved ones. So I would just really encourage people to do that before they get mentally exhausted. Physically, if you're overtraining, you often get a little niggle, you get a little bit of pain, or you get a little bit of soreness or something telling you that you're pushing yourself too hard. Mentally, it's not always so obvious. So yeah, this idea of mental fatigue and fitting in enough recovery time, whether it's recovery from work or in your sailing context, really important. And I just hope 2022 will be a much better year for everyone. I'm really looking forward to the next show, and hopefully we'll have some events to perform. We've got the Supernova Class.
Yeah, another big one, isn't it? Yes, I mean,
it's amazing. It sort of feels like the biggest class I don't know much about, so I'm really looking forward to speak to Gavin. I think, and I should have probably updated the slide, I think there's going to actually be 2 guests if that works out with the technology, because they're so keen to talk about the class, couldn't actually decide who was going to do it, or maybe they've just both got very different things to say. So really, I hope people will be tuning in February, and we'll be talking about more upcoming events as well.